and I am here for this 1 hour in-house CBSE training. Before we start the topic, let's have a very short video on it.
One night 4 college students were playing till late night and could not study for the test which was scheduled for the next day. In the morning they thought of a plan. They made themselves look as dirty with grease and dirt. They then went up to the dean and said that they had gone out to a wedding last night and on their return the tire of their car burst and they had to push the car all the way back and that they were in no condition to appear for the test. So the dean said they could have the retest after 3 days. They thanked him and said they would be ready by that time. On the 3rd day, they appeared before the dean. The dean said that as this was a special condition test, all 4 were required to sit in separate classrooms for the test. They all agreed as they had prepared well in the last 3 days. The test consisted of 2 questions with a total of 100 marks. And this is the question paper.
The video includes that the students are planning that they will appear in the test for the next day, but they do not plan that how to execute their plan. So on the basis of that, in this field, means in this teaching learning field, the topic of this in-house training is lesson planning. And the introduction of this lesson planning is that before we introduce, planning is necessary for every aspect of life. Otherwise, any work done without planning proved to be a wastage of time, money and power. Without planning, teaching can never be successful. Even an efficient and experienced teacher who goes to a class without planning will not be successful and will waste most of the time in some useless talk. Some concepts of lesson plan. The term lesson plan is conveyed in a different way by different people. So, according to this, lesson plan as a blueprint or a plan or a guide for the action in the near future. A guide map, a comprehensive chart for classroom teaching, a systematic, elastic approach for the development of concepts, skills and understanding. Here, the meaning of lesson plan. A lesson plan is the instructor's roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. We can say that a lesson plan is teacher's own guide to control the teaching learning process. Now, lesson plan is defined by various people in various ways. Here, according to Lester B. Sand, the lesson plan is actually a plan of action that includes the working philosophy of the teacher, his knowledge of philosophy, his information about and understanding of his pupils, his comprehension of the objective of education, his knowledge of the material that is to be taught, and his ability to utilize the effective method. From the discussion, lesson plan meaning, it is clear that lesson planning is a vital component of the teaching learning process. Proper classroom planning will keep teacher organized and on track while teaching, thus allowing them to teach more, help students and reach objectives more easily and in a managed way. Now, how to plan a lesson unnecessary conversation. Second is self-confidence development. While preparing the lesson plan, the teacher acquires clear knowledge about the teaching aids. He predetermines those activities which will make the lesson clear to the students. Third is the realization of the objectives of education is possible. In lesson plan, the aims of the lesson to be taught are decided, and to achieve these aims, the curriculum and teaching methods are also fixed. Fourth, determination of teachers and students' activity. While preparing the lesson plan, the teacher also determines which activities are to be performed by him and which activities are to be performed by the students. Fifth, guides the teacher. Lesson plan correctly leads the teacher who sets his limits while teaching a lesson. Now, the second group is preparing for acquiring relevant audio-visual aids. While making a lesson plan, the teacher will also think about the various teaching aids he has to use while teaching and which point has to be taught with the logic. Next is correlation. As through lesson plan, the syllabus is completed in a very planned manner. Therefore, there will be a relation among the different readers and there will be a continuity in the syllabus. Next, proper time and energy utilization. Lesson plan helps in proper utilization of time and energy. While teaching, the teacher moves ahead in a logical and systematic manner. Next is evaluation is possible. Lesson plan also makes the evaluation possible for teachers. After evaluation, the teacher can improve upon his teaching material. Next, individual difficulties can be solved. By preparing a good lesson plan, the teacher can prepare the entire lesson. He has a clear picture of the lesson in his mind so that how he can clear all the doubts of all the students. Next is selection of teaching methods. After determining the aim of teaching, the teacher needs to select the correct method. Various old and new teaching methods are here: textbook method, lecture method, discussion method, problem solving method, project method, etc. Next, meeting definite aims and achievement of goals. While preparing a lesson plan, the teacher keeps in mind the general aims and the specific aims in mind, and in the middle of the lesson plan, he must distinguish between them. Next is efficiency. While preparing the lesson plan, the abilities, interests, habits, capabilities and mental behavior of the students are kept in mind. Accordingly, the teacher arranged for helping aids and means that how students take interest in the studies and their work becomes very efficient. Next is evaluation of the work done. The teacher knows which question he has to ask for covering the different aspect of lesson. This question helps him to know for he has been successful in his teaching, where he has faulted. In the future, he tries to improve with the fault that he has done in the past. Last one is confidence of the teacher in himself. The teacher knows in advance that what and how he has to teach, which aids have to be used and what activities have to be performed by the students. In this way, he is freely prepared for his work and thus build a confidence in himself also. From all this discussion, it is clear that lesson planning has an important role in teaching work. Here are some functions and purpose of lesson plan. Lesson planning gives the teacher greater assurance and greater freedom in teaching. It stimulates the teacher to introduce pivotal questions and illustrations. It enables the teacher to know the most desirable type of teaching procedure and to prepare tests of progress. Lesson planning establishes proper connection between different lessons or units of study. It provides and encourages continuity teaching process. It provides adequate lesson summaries, ensures a definite assignments for class and availability of material for lessons when it is needed. Last one is that lesson plan prevent waste because systematic and orderly. It saves him from the hazards teaching. Some other important functions and importance of lesson plan. It provides a coherent framework for smooth teaching. It helps the teacher to be more organized. The lesson plan gives a sense of direction in relation to the syllabus. It provides a useful basis for future planning. It helps the teacher to plan lessons that cater to different students, and it also helps the teacher to be more confident while delivering the lesson. Now, there are so many characteristics of good lesson. First one is that based on the previous knowledge. As an ideal lesson plan should be based on the previous knowledge of the student. This will avoid any difficulty in acquiring new knowledge by the student. Second one is objective based. The lesson plan must be based on one or the other objective. While writing this, objectives should be written and defined clearly because its main objective is to achieve some goals or objectives. Third is use of illustration. In an ideal lesson plan, such examples should be used which are relevant with the daily life of the students. Fourth is homework. There should be a provision of homework in an ideal lesson plan. This will enable the students to learn the application of the acquired knowledge. Fifth one is that teaching from memory level to reflective level. In a good lesson plan, development, thought-provoking questions should be asked. Next is good knowledge of subject matter. The teacher should have a good knowledge of subject matter for the lesson plan which has to be prepared. Seventh one, utilization of more than one method. A good lesson plan utilizes more than one method and the teacher remains active in the mid of the whole lesson. Next, individual help to the students. In the lesson plan, there should be a provision for the individual help to the students, and it should also be clear in the lesson plan for how much time the lesson will be completed. Now, some basic principles of lesson plan. First is the principle of writing the lesson plan. A good lesson plan should be written. It should not remain at the oral or mental stage. Second is principle of flexibility. Lesson plan should indicate a child's activity and participation which is to be met in the classroom. Third, principle of selected bibliography. Lesson plan should indicate the selected bibliography means the reference book. Fourth is principle of evaluation exercise. Lesson planning should indicate evaluation exercise. This exercise may be in the form of recapitulatory question and problem relating to the application of the knowledge. Fifth is principle of assignment. Lesson plan should include assignment for the pupils. And sixth one is principle of making a summary. The lesson plan should have an outline or summary of the whole lesson. This summary may be developed on the blackboard with the help of the student also. Steps of lesson plan. First is, according to Professor Hart it. How to write a lesson plan? The first step is introduction. It provides time for practice and review. It's setting the purpose, introducing the key concept, topics and main ideas. Next is foundation. It's checking the previous knowledge, clarify key points, focus on specific standards, objectives and goals. Third is brain activation. Ask students to clarify ideas and to add knowledge, brainstorm main ideas, clarify and correct misconceptions. Fourth is body of new information. Provide teachers input, lecture, add key points and new information. Read the text or articles and solve problems. Present the body of the lesson. Is maybe a whole class lecture, a small group activity with teachers' supervision. The next step is clarification. Check for understanding with simple problem, situations and questions. Next, provide time for practice. At this step of lesson planning, allow students time to practice under your supervision. Next is independent practice. Supervise students' independent practice. Select additional strategies for small group of students who still do not get it. Other students may be work independently with the final goal being that all students can work on their own. The last is closure. Bring the lesson to closure. This is the last step of making a lesson plan. Here the teacher link the lesson phases and information together. Summarize the learning of the day and discuss how it fits into the big vision or the learning. Now, the 5 pillars of effective lesson planning. This is the last slide of the presentation. Here, the lesson planning to be flexible. Rigidity on the part of the teachers to implement the plan strictly as per the structure laid down would probably hinder rather than help. Next is lesson planning to be outcome oriented. At the end of the academic session, ultimately only the outcomes determine the efficiency of the teacher, and that is why it is important to select the method and structure which will help the learner completely. Next is lesson planning to be realistic. The teacher must ensure whether the lesson planning formulated is appropriate for the group size of the students to be taught, their past experience, disabilities and other special characteristics. Fourth is lesson planning should encourage pure learning. Students have very effective form each other. So, lesson planning should encourage pure learning. It should provide informal opportunities for the students to share their knowledge and skill acquired by them. Last is subject-specific lesson plan. A good subject-specific lesson plan reflects the uniqueness of the content. A good lesson planning may well include a discussion of pedagogical content knowledge to employ when the conducting of the knowledge. That's all. Thank you.